What's up?
What's going on?
Oh, just Celtics won last night, so a little late night.
You did what last night?
The Celtics won the championship, so
Oh,
I
basketball stuff.
stayed up pretty late.
Did that feel good? Did it feel good to have the Celtics win the championship?
It did. It did. I remember like growing up with like for me it's like the childhood memories where it's like I was born in '85, so I was the tail end of like Larry Bird era, Kevin McHale, Robert
Yep.
Parrish type stuff. And so
Yep.
my grandparents, my dad and stuff, I remember just growing up in those households where that was I mean, that was probably that and the Bruins is probably the number one sport, at least in my family, in terms of like everyone watched, everyone knew everything Larry Bird did, or like the Dream Team. Like after that, it kind of trailed off. Where I think I was really the only one that kind of followed that sport per se. But
Yep.
yeah, as a kid, sports was just so much different back then.
Yeah,
Like
man. It was
I remember
there.
smoking in the living rooms, people smoking. Like it was just like this. It just felt like this. You were part of something. Where now it's just like, eh,
Yeah, now it's like I didn't know how much money everybody made. It didn't matter to me.
right.
It was just about it was about the game and that was it. And that era, we've talked about this before, but that era of basketball was like that was when it was fun for me. And yeah, I mean, once those players kind of moved on, you know, I just sort of lost the I do you remember when Latrell Sprewell hit his coach? Remember that?
Yeah, he hit PJ Carlesimo, choked him.
I think that was kind of the end for me with like basketball. Like I really wasn't paying that much attention to it then either, but like it was like okay, we've crossed over into something else. And then that when Ron Artest and all those guys jumped up into the stands and
Melee at the Palace. Yep.
got into that fight with the fans and stuff. I'm like, okay, man, this is
Well, it
and
seems
I don't look, I know it recovered. I'm saying for me, I don't think it ever recovered. It's just like I I don't think that I don't think it's possible for me to be less interested. How about this? I didn't know that there was a basketball finals going on. How's that? You just told me that the Celtics won the finals, and I didn't know that there even was a finals happening.
awesome. I mean, I wish I could have that disconnection to like whatever reason. Like I don't know
Who did they play? Who are they playing?
the
Who are the Celtics
Mavericks.
playing? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I just even back then, like it seemed like the marketing, the ads. Like I remember it was like Wheaties, McDonald's, Nike, and then Reebok, some stuff like that. But everything just felt like it felt organic. Where now, like there's no agenda behind the ads. It was Michael Jordan, Larry Bird doing trick shots for free Big Macs. Now you look at some of this messaging, you're kind of like, why are they putting that in there? Like, why can't this be about burgers and guys having playing basketball?
Yeah, I mean everything has an agenda now. Everyone is required to be politically hyper aware of everything and and have an opinion about anything political that's going on around them. And social and political, right? Well, because everything's ESG governed now, you know, and that's ESG stands for environmental and social governance. And so corporations have ESG scores that they get as to how much they care about the environment and how much they care about social issues and social justice. And the only people that care about that are the people who are running ESG and the corporations. But it matters. It matters as to how like your what your company is worth. And that's why you see a lot of companies pushing agendas that you don't understand why they're pushing them because for and the public doesn't has so much fatigue about that stuff, and you wonder why it's still and not that there's certain things we shouldn't worry about that injustices and that sort of thing. Those things do exist, but just everything being pushed on everybody all the time, and it would seem like that would be counterintuitive uh, to the value that a company has to the general public, like how much people want to use their product. And it seems like you're pushing people away, but internally that ESG score is such a big deal. So, I mean, that's what it is, man. That's why we see, that's why we see all these advertisements that seem to just always are pushing some sort of social and environmental agenda. Whereas when we were kids, it was like, well, when I was a kid, we were all going to freeze to death in 10 years. We were all going to freeze to death in 10 years. And now we're not going to all freeze to, now we're all going to burn to death. And now we're going to drown in 10 years. That's what it is. We're all going to be underwater in 10 years. Funny enough, man, I saw, it was on an Instagram reel, but it was Dan Rather in the late 80s talking about how, due to the rise in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, that we were all going to Florida was going to be underwater in 15 years or something. It's just so stupid, man. It's just scare tactics. It's something to keep us always on edge. But anyway, I came away from basketball, but
well, you were just at the U.S. Open. Like,
I
how was
was.
that?
It was awesome. It was fun, man. It was good.
Well,
Yeah,
what's the biggest difference between watching the U.S. Open on TV versus being there outside obviously the obvious, but like, do you get to, if you're a golf fan like yourself, do you have more fun watching these guys on TV or in person?
Uh, the atmosphere, you're there for the atmosphere, right? I think with a golf tournament, because you cannot watch the tournament happening. Like, you can follow one person, or you can post up at one spot, on the course, and watch everyone come through that spot, and then move to another spot and watch those same people come back through, or whatever. There's an atmosphere for sure, like, especially on Sunday when, like, all the leaders are out on the course, everything's happening, and you can hear cheers off in the distance of things happening, and like, there's this atmosphere to it. And then maybe you'll be lucky enough to be in a spot where you can see something happen, right? It's very much an atmosphere, but you can't see the whole thing. It's like, if you've ever been to a horse race and you're in the infield, you watch them go by one time and that's all you get. That's what you got to see. And it's like that with golf too. And so, as far as the enjoyment of watching the tournament, I'd rather watch it on TV for sure, because you can see everything. You can see all the shots. The problem is you have to listen to the commentators, and they always suck. They're all terrible. Mike Tirico is probably my favorite. Actually, I have to say something, man. Like, this is really interesting. Is ESPN started doing major golf tournaments a few years back. It's been a few years. They started doing, like, the Thursday and Friday of the Masters they would do, and I think they did the PGA Championship as well. I have to say, man, Scott Van Pelt and the ESPN people are actually more fun to listen to now than anybody else, which they have evolved to that point.
Well, I like the fact that they're not traditional. Obviously, they're not known for their golfing, and so it brings an air of, like, relatability to someone that doesn't know golf.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I like Dennis Miller on Monday Night Football, because it was so out there. It's so
forgot
different,
about that.
But it was so. I think years go away, decades now, people would be like, that era with Dennis Miller on Monday Night Football made that fun.
I forgot about Dennis Miller doing Monday Night Football. Yeah. It's the problem with golf commentating is they call him it's not the play, it's their version of a play-by-play guy on football. But usually it's an ex-player or something, somebody that gives commentary on the game, right? You have the announcer, like whether it's Tirico or oh God, I'm forgetting, Scott Van Pelt or whoever, and then you're going to have Jim Nantz, right? And then you're going to have a player that used to play, and they'll give commentary. Like Johnny Miller was always the guy, and they're always curmudgeon. They try to find these people that are just going to tear these players apart.
David Duvall.
So you've got Johnny Miller, who won. He won 2 U.S. Opens in the '70s. Playing a totally different game. He was good for about 5 seconds, and he was great for about 5 seconds. And then he sucked the rest of his career. He got the yips. What they call the yips. He couldn't putt anymore. But yet, this is the guy that's going to tell us why everybody is shitting the bed on the golf course and what they need to do and how they should be doing it and all this stuff, right? And so, thank God that guy retired a few years ago. And what's crazy is that, like, now these new guys are so terrible that, like, now I find myself wishing he would just come back because, But there's this guy named Brandel Chambly. And he's on the Golf Channel as well, but he was doing the commentator stuff on this tournament. That guy is like, it's even worse than Johnny Miller with him because he's a stats guy, right? Everything's statistics with him. And he's not wrong sometimes. It's not that. It's the way he goes about things. And here's a guy who I think he only won 2 tournaments ever on the PGA Tour, and neither one of them were majors. It was like, the Waste Management Open, and I don't know if he won that or not, but these
Yeah.
the John Deere Classic and whatever, right? And so this is the guy who's telling us why everybody sucks and what they should be doing, and how they should be doing it and all this stuff. And I don't know if a lot of people might not know this, but golf has split off into 2 factions now in the last couple of years. There's the PGA Tour, and then there's the LIV Tour. And the LIV Tour is like almost like an exhibition tour where they're throwing all this. There's the Saudis that have all the money, right? And they basically they're giving some players somewhere between, $50 million and $500 million to come over and play on the tour. That's all they're getting. They're like getting contracts to come play, and then they still win money when they win the tournament. So a lot of the best players in the world have gone to live LIV Tour. And Brandel Chambly is just all about like hating on the LIV guys and stuff, man. But there's a guy on there named Anthony Kim, and Anthony Kim used to be a PGA player. He used to be a PGA player, and he came back. He came over to LIV, and Brandel Chambly is just giving all these guys shit because they're just all about the money, and they just want money, and they don't care about the integrity of the game. Knowing full well that if somebody offered his stupid ass $500 million to do something, he'd jump in 2 seconds, right? But Anthony Kim had a great point. He was talking about how he was watching Brandel Chambly talking over these. They were talking about the Ryder Cup, and for people who don't know, the Ryder Cup is like where Europe and the United States compete against each other every 2 years in golf. And the women have the Solheim Cup, which is the same thing, but it's so the Ryder Cup is the men's version. And he's given his opinions on the Ryder Cup and how people should do it and how they shouldn't do it. And while seated on either side of him are 2 gentlemen who played on Ryder Cup teams, and he's just talking over them, like telling them how it is, And when that guy never even sniffed a Ryder Cup team ever, right? And Anthony Kim goes, he was talking about Brandel Chambly, and he said he was talking about how ironic that was that this fucking this dude is just talking all over these guys who, one of them being David Duval. Talking all over these guys who have played on Ryder Cup teams, and he goes, Brandon, when we want to know what it's like to drive yourself to a Corn Ferry Tour qualifying event, we'll ask you what it's like, because it's like this guy is just so terrible. So other than the commentators, watching golf on TV is better for sure.
I thought it was. For people to watch the tournament this weekend, Rory.
And by the way, Bryson DeChambeau, who won the U.S. Open, is an LIV Tour player. One of these guys that Brandel Chambly hates because he left. He
was signing autographs till like 10 p.m. that night.
Yeah, man, signing autographs till 10 p.m. Yeah, dude, absolutely.
So for people that don't follow the U.S. Open, Rory McIlroy, the term choked. Whatever in sports,
yeah.
But his reaction was kind of like pouty, storm off. Like obviously he's upset that he missed that putt he makes every time he does that. Misses it this one time.
Missed three major putts, yeah. And
so yesterday he puts out the statement on social media, basically saying, hey, he's going to take 3 or 4 weeks or a month to kind of step away. He's very like I know we're talking about mental health. But it was also, again, I don't know if it's athletes changing or athletes feeling comfortable talking about mental health struggles. But anytime growing up, you'd watch like at least for me, Nick Faldo, Tiger Woods, Sergio Garcia, Ernie Els, Retief Goosen, they would miss putts like that all the time, but they would never react the way he did, nor would they ever put out a statement saying, hey, I got to step away for a couple of weeks or months to kind of. So is Rory someone that is just a different type of person that has to tell everyone he has to step away? Or like it just seemed weird to me. Like it seemed out of place compared to athletes even 10 years ago in golf.
Yeah. Well, first of all, look, man, people can say he choked and stuff. Golf is exceedingly difficult.
Correct.
Like ridiculously a difficult game. And and he missed a couple of short putts. And yes, it probably was the pressure that got to him. So you can say it choked or whatever, but I just choose not to look at it that way. I mean, I hate to see anybody lose, right? I like to see somebody win a tournament, not somebody lose. And Rory basically, and I mean, look, Bryson was playing really well, and they should have gone to a playoff, but Rory missed that. There was a putt on the 18th hole that he missed, but it was a really difficult putt. Uh, uh, but so that's probably the worst loss of his career for sure, and some of that guy's been playing for 17 years on the tour and grew up a prodigy too. So like this kid was like a lot of people don't know, Rory McIlroy was on like late night television shows when he was a kid hitting trick shots, like when he was like 5 and 6 years old. So he's always been a great golfer and
Right.
great at the game, and always in the spotlight with it. But this had to be the hardest loss for sure. I mean, you could see it. What people are talking about, like sort of the glaring difference, is that Bryson DeChambeau, the guy that won the U.S. Open, just lost a month ago, lost the PGA Championship by one shot.
Yes.
And when the guy that won, Xander Schauffele, when he won, Bryson went immediately to him and said, "Congratulations, man, great win." The other thing Bryson DeChambeau did was there was a chance they could go to a playoff. So Bryson DeChambeau was still practicing on the range just in case, on the driving range, just in case they went to a playoff, which they didn't do. But as soon as he knew he had lost and he couldn't win, as he was walking off the driving range, he was mumbling something to himself. And one of the commentators asked him what he was mumbling later. And he said, "I was mumbling, I got to get better. I got to get better. I got to get better."
I love that.
Meaning, yeah. So like he had just come within a breath of winning a major. He's already won the U.S. Open once, but this was the PGA Championship. So he came within one stroke of winning that. And so mumbling to himself, "I got to get better. I got to get better." As he's walking toward the guy who won, walks over to him, gives him a hug, shakes his hand, says, "Man, great," And again, there's this divide right now between the PGA players and the LIV players. And a lot of the PGA players don't like the LIV players. But here's a LIV player going over to a PGA player and shaking his hand and going, "Man, great win. Congratulations." Even though it's painful as hell for him to lose that,
Oh,
right?
hell yeah.
So now fast forward to this past weekend. Rory loses. Bryson DeChambeau wins. Rory loses the tournament. And Rory just within 6 minutes.
Weird. It was
within
weird.
within 6 minutes of him losing the tournament, was in the car heading home. Didn't go up and congratulate DeChambeau. Didn't do anything like that. Just got in his car and left. He was on his G5 airplane and within the hour, right, headed home. And I mean, so that he's catching a lot of shit for that, where it's like, hey man, you should have been. He doesn't show a lot of sportsmanship. He never really has, though. Rory hasn't. He's always been very, kind of about himself and insular. And he seems like a really nice dude. I'm not saying that as a shot to him.
He's a great golfer.
He was also about to go through a divorce, but just before this week, he and his wife reconciled. So,
yep.
Or it seemed to be reconciling, right? So he's going through a lot of personal stuff. But
she starts dating DeChambeau.
So, dude, oh my God, that would be the end right there. But he, so mental health wise, yeah, man, he's not in a great spot, right? He's but he did put out a statement that was very gracious to Bryson and but should have shown more sportsmanship in the moment. Like I've always been taught, man, even if it's the most painful thing you've ever been through, like be the bigger man no matter what, right?
Or shake the hand. Yeah,
shake their hand, man. Yeah, because I mean, it's not like he stole it from him. He won it, and you didn't make the putts, right? But I think to your point about like, somebody like Nick Faldo or a Johnny Miller or a Lee Trevino or some of these older school guys, or even Tiger Woods,
Buggy Zeller.
I think we live in a time right now though where everyone is just, look, man, those guys didn't live in a time when every single person under the sun could have an immediate opinion about them choking or whatever.
Yeah,
it's all over, and they wouldn't become a meme. Rory is now like that poor guy standing in the scoring in the scoring tent, watching Deschambault sink his putt to win and seeing just the life leave his face has become a meme. And it's like there's like 1,000 memes with that video on him now, and that wouldn't have been a thing with those guys, man. So I get the whole, like, I'm going to step away and I'm going to, because again, man, he's trying to, he's probably trying to fix his marriage at the same time. And he just lost the biggest. By the way, Rory McIlroy's won 4 major tournaments before. I mean, like he's not like a slouch, right?
Correct.
And so it's not like this was his one chance and it slipped away, but it's probably the most painful loss of his life, coinciding with his marital problems and everything else, man. And I'm 1,000% behind somebody stepping away and doing what they need to do, in those moments. But I mean, here's the thing, man. We didn't get announcements about that stuff back in the day because people didn't feel like they had to put press releases out about everything. But the problem is like everyone is so hyper in everybody else's business all the time and wanting to know what's going on. If you're a celebrity, if you're a person in the limelight, so it's just like a requirement now to like make a statement about everything. People that like reality TV stars making statements about their personal lives, and But I imagine that if you don't do that, you're going to get hounded, At least now it's like, okay, well, Rory said, and by the way, it's not unusual. What he's doing is not unusual. I mean, the US Open just happened. And then the way it's set up now, it used to not be this way, but now it's like, it's literally just about a month between every major tournament. And the next one is the British Open. And that's the last major of the year. And the Scottish Open is the week before the British Open. And so it's not an unusual thing for guys to, especially the bigger players in the world who don't have to worry about money and don't have to worry about qualifying or winning tournaments, that the week after a major, those couple of tournaments after a major tournament, a lot of people don't play them. A lot of the more popular players don't play them, and they'll pick back up a couple of weeks later, maybe the tournament before a major or something. And that's what he's doing. He's not going to play the next 2 weeks, and then he'll play the Scottish Open, which he won last year. Right. He'll play that, and then he'll play the British Open. And I honestly think he'll win the British Open. I think he will. I think because that's he's always done well in that tournament. He's from Northern Ireland, so he's grown up playing in those conditions. He knows how to play that kind of golf. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he ran away with the British Open, actually, just because there's like this, he's playing really well, and he's got this, he's just had this thing happen, and it's like,
what is the equivalent? I'm talking live performance for Shinedown versus winning a championship. Is it having a great show?
Nah, man, there's no, like, I was thinking about this weekend, man. I'm not having like writer's block or anything, but I have some creative problems right now and stuff. And I'm watching these guys play, and I just long for, as an artist, I wish that I lived in an objective world like that, where it's like, you did the thing, you went out and you played better than everybody else, and you win, and no one can take it away from you. I live in a subjective world where everything I do is opinion and at the mercy of multiple gatekeepers. Like, people have no idea how exceedingly difficult it is for a song to see the radio, much less be a number 1 song or a top 10 song, because you have so many gatekeepers to get past. People that think they have opinions, or think they should have opinions that shouldn't, or have opinions and they have every right to have that opinion that can either keep you from getting where you want to be, or and it's politics and everything else that's involved with this stuff. And I do, man. Like I long for that. I wish that it was just like, no, you made the thing that was better than everybody else's thing, and therefore, I'm not saying I make the thing that's better than everybody else's thing. That's not it's sometimes I don't make a great thing, but it would be a great experiment to find out what would happen if art was objective and not subjective for half a second, and see what was really the greatest benchmark. But we have no way of doing that. I mean, it's just it's not realistic. So I've thought about that. I'm like, well, what is the winning the major championship version of what we do. And I mean, look, man, in some people's mind, I guess maybe we've done it with all the number ones, right? Um, I had a friend of mine, uh, and we've talked about this, like those awards don't sit well with me. Like, I mean, I appreciate them. They just don't
Yeah.
register with me, I guess you should say. I don't let things register with me very well, on purpose sometimes. Um, but actually, it was Josh Sturm text me when we got the most number ones ever on Billboard or whatever at Rock. And he sends me this text message, and it was just very simple. He said, "Congratulations, you have won rock and roll." And I was just like, and I guess at that moment I was like, that's,
Yes. Very
you know,
Josh. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, but it caused me to think for half a second. Actually, what it did, it didn't cause me to get like, oh, cocky, yeah, we won rock and roll, but it actually for half a second caused me to go, oh yeah, we have accomplished something pretty amazing, you know, because you're never going to get that objective thing. It's always going to be subjective. Um, so the awards are kind of soft. They're soft awards. There's no like concrete, like they're like an MVP award. You know, it's not like you have like you're talking about the basketball, whoever won the MVP last night, right? Uh, that's a soft award. That's an opinion award, and then you've got your solid awards that are, and your hard awards, which are, you can't deny this because the
Right.
numbers
We
say this is
won.
what happens,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And uh, so yeah, when he said that, it was like, oh man, for half a second, it was like, you know, it kind of felt like something like that, but again, man, it's just a record that's made to be broken, right? At some point, somebody will come take it and move past and all of that. But yeah, look, man, I think that sometimes I tend to look at what we do as as much as I say I don't, I'm going to be a hypocrite right now, but I think that sometimes I have a tendency to look at these things a little bit more like they are a sport than I should in some ways. No one's ever going to win or lose or anything like that, but um, those guys that are on the PGA Tour, they're constantly grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, and I doubt that many of them take a second and go, wait a second, look where I am. I'm one of the top players I'm at the top of my profession. And, because they're always looking to win. They're always looking to win the thing. And so they don't, I would, if you're a real tough competitor, you're probably just always grinding and looking forward and not really appreciating where you are. And I do that with what we do. It's like, but it's a competition with myself, not with anybody else. It's like, you know,
Right.
we're starting back up with writing. We're starting back up with writing today, and I'm already kind of spun out because it's like I got to do something great today. I have to do something great. And I don't spend a lot of time appreciating where we are at the time ever. Even on stage and stuff, it's kind of hard to stop. And when you're on stage in front of 100,000 people at Download or at one of these festivals, you're so caught up in being there and trying to perform and put on a great performance that you don't really stop and appreciate what you're doing. So I would, but whenever you do get a second to kind of stop grinding and pay attention and just stop for half a second and appreciate something. Talked last week about how I pat myself, I guess, but like maybe winning a major championship or something in golf or winning a national championship. But those moments are just so fleeting. It's like, yeah, you've got the number one song right now, but tomorrow you could not have it, and guaranteed probably that within a couple of weeks you're not going to have it, and you're going to have to work yourself back up again. Even in the pop world, like how we're trying to get the symptom of being human to climb up way up the top 40 charts right now. It's like, even if we reach number one, it's going to be very fleeting. And the satisfaction of that kind of stuff is so temporary, of like, oh, we did it. Okay, now do it again. And it's like, well, wait, we just spent all this time doing this thing, and it's like,
Yeah.
and that's also how the business views you too. It's like, oh, great, you did this thing. Congratulations. Now do it again. So it's a little different than sports, in that way. But I do, man. I spend an awful lot of time, wishing that what I did could be measured in ones and zeros, and not in opinions.
Yeah. It's
Because if you're a golfer and you go out and you shoot a 69, you shot a 3-under round, and no one can take that away from you. Like, that is what it is. A 69 on that day is it, and that is what it is. If I do the equivalent of shooting a 69 in music, like I write something that I think that is really, really great. Like, I have those songs that I think are like my under par rounds of golf, right? Like, and most people don't agree with me. It's like, oh, okay, shit,
yeah.
It's why sometimes, man, it's just so you see a lot of unhappy artists, a lot of unhappy musicians, because they think they want to climb this. Like Kurt Cobain is a perfect example. This guy, he didn't set out to do what he did, yet he found himself with everybody just gushing over everything he was doing, and then it's like, okay, now do it again, and it's like, shit. I didn't even mean to do it the first time.
Right.
It's not like sports where you're trying to, like, I mean, we're all striving, but it's so not hit or miss. Hit or miss isn't the right thing, but it's so just up to the universe, man, as to what hits at what time, and what works and what doesn't work. So,
Well, it's a fine line. I mean, for me, the being content versus happy, and like how to like move about both. Because last week my comic book came out, and I was so happy physically touching it for the first time. Now, obviously, I've seen the digital, I've seen all the how it's gonna look, but actually like smelling it and feeling it, it's like, oh my God, this is an idea of mine that's now out for the world's consumption. And I was so happy. And then literally with an hour later, I'm like, who cares? And I'm not to take away from like the work I put into it that Chris, who actually designed it and put together, but I'm kind of like, well, this last week I just put another 5,000-6,000 words into this story, because now it's like I can't rest on that. I'm happy, but I don't want to be content with that, because now once
yeah,
you
man.
put something out there, you're kind of like, I can do better, and like
Yeah.
now people demand that. Man, this is, you look at some of the reviews from people that aren't traditional comic book readers, authors and actors and stuff, going, "Holy shit, John, this is awesome," and then you're kind of like, well, now I have to maintain that, and it puts this pressure on you that it's just tough to explain. And it just seems, I can only imagine the people the top musicians, actors, athletes who are winning these tournaments and championships, and like under the scrutiny of everyone, like you said, just watching their every move and making sure, well, this is as good as last time, and vice versa.
So let me ask you something. How many times did you read it, go over it, consume it, look at it from a different perspective? How many times did you do that before it was released?
I mean, to get the actual story, the short story itself, that this thing's being pulled
No, I'm
from.
talking about when it's done, like it's finished.
I mean, I probably went through it probably 30, 40 times, just like going through the digital layout of like different stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, it wasn't like there's no changes. Like I connected with
Right.
this artist so quickly that
Mhm.
everything I envisioned what it should look like that. Or he was able to pull the words and phrases and images from my short story into a comic form the way I would have done it. So there's never any like weirdness there where I'm kind of like, I would have done this differently. Like there's no hedging on my part.
No, but I guess what I'm asking is did you did you were you did you set yourself up to be, or did you try to be the mock consumer a bunch before you put it out? Like,
Yeah. No, I tried to. I know when I read comic books, growing up on the Creep Show, Twilight Zone, Tales from the Dark Side, all that type of horror anthology stuff, I knew what made me tick, and everyone I grew up with, people I know that like the same stuff, kind of feel the same way. At least I think, and so I tried to have it done in a way that would appease people that like that throwback kind of tongue-in-cheek dark humor horror set in like the setting here of obviously World War II. But I don't know. I'm happy if that I could say there's a comic out that I'm attached to it. I don't care if anyone ever to buy it or read it. I'm so happy with it. But the fact that people are happy with it as well puts this added pressure where I don't even know if it's pressure for me because I'm just gonna keep doing what I do. I don't care about that side of it. But if people are gonna spend their money and their time flipping through a 20-page comic, I feel like I owe it to them to make sure I put the best version of that out every time. And so there's that stigma of that.
yeah, I guess my point in asking that is that when I finish a record, I will listen to it when it's finished, like when it's done. I enjoy that time of I'm the only one that has this, or me and a couple other people, the only people that can
Yeah.
listen to this and know about it. And I'll consume it at that point. I'll consume it like it's the only thing I'm listening to for a while, trying to, like, you know, when I say mock consumer, I mean, like, how are people going to feel when they hear this? How is it going to, like, I try to listen to it like I'm listening to it for the first time, even though I've, you know, I know how the sausage was made. And so it's very difficult to do that, but I will love it and hang on to it and, you know, take pride in letting other people hear it or whatever. Right. And then the day on release day, which what you're talking about when you finally get this thing in your hand or whatever, you know, on release day, I stop doing that. Like I'm done with it. And what, to your point, like, you know, I'll look at it or I'll pick it up or I'll listen to it and go, okay, now what? What's next? You know, and there's not much joy in that. There's not much joy in the release day. There's relief in it. Like you like what you said, like I put this out in the world and look at you know, I did this thing and now I'm holding it and this is amazing. And then you say, you know, what, you know, 20 minutes later, it's like, yeah, I don't really care now. You know, it's like
Yeah.
because the love and the emotion and the uh sacrifice and the creativity and all of this stuff is in the creation of it and not in the having of it. You know, like it's all about the journey is the destination.
Yeah.
We've talked about, you hear people talk about that ad nauseum, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, but that is it. That is the reality. The the truth is that it's about the making of it, not about the finishing of it. Oh, it is about the finishing of it, not about the when it's finished. That's not what it's about. Um, it's also why, like, owning things is hollow. Like trying to find happiness in material things. It's the same feeling of like, oh, I'm gonna buy this sports car, or I'm going to buy this boat, or I'm going to do this thing. And then there's all that like excitement of the lead up to it, man. And it's like, here it comes. I'm going to get it. And then you get it and you had it for about a week. And then you're like, shit, I don't feel any fucking different than I did before. This isn't the answer. You know, it's like that with art too. It's like, you know, it's about the excitement of making it and the growth in making it. And, the falling on your face or the victory or whatever. And then, you know, Bryson DeChambeau is experiencing the same thing right now. I guarantee you, man, it's been two days since the US Open victory, and he is already probably thinking about grinding again and getting back into it and figuring
Yeah,
out some things with this swing. And honestly, for Rory McIlroy, the same thing. He lost it, but he's probably already thinking about getting back into, even though he's going to take a couple weeks off or whatever, but he's already thinking about getting back to it. Because that is what it's about. It's about those moments are great, man, and they feel fucking amazing to like finish something and to complete something or to get an accolade for something. But it is so fleeting, whereas the majority of it is the making of it and the navigating the universe to try to arm wrestle the universe into letting you create this thing or
right.
to accomplish this thing. And so, I mean, I know that feeling that you're talking about where it's like, oh, here it is. Dude, I don't think I maybe have a physical copy or two of our records floating around somewhere, but it's just like I maybe I don't know where they are. It doesn't mean that I didn't and the rest of us didn't work our asses off for it. We did, and we loved that thing, but it's like it's it's like having a child and you throw it out of the nest, throw the bird out of the nest
Yeah.
and go make some more birds.
The last when I listened to Planet Zero for the first time again since this came out, doing yard work last week, and rehearing some of the interludes again. I know you and I
Mm-hmm.
texted about this. Like there's some super powerful lines in there, but like, what was your process? Did you have to create the interludes first as part of the story, or did you have to kind of create them as you wrote the songs and how the album was going to be laid out, song
I
wise?
I will tell you how the interludes happened. So, um, we were making in the middle of recording the record somewhere, and I've got a bunch of analog synthesizers in here in the studio. They're just, they're fun, man. You patch cables into them, and you turn knobs and twist knobs, and you make all these synthesizer sounds and stuff. And uh, so the interlude that you hear at the end of Planet Zero. So when Planet Zero is open, kind of the first major interlude on the record, the Welcome to Planet Zero, that thing. Um, Initially, at some point, I had just been in here screwing around with the synthesizer, and Planet Zero happened to be the song that was open, the session that was open, while I was screwing around with the synthesizer for some reason. And so that sort of digital noise that you hear is something I don't know why I was messing around with that. But at some point, I looked at Doug or something. I said, record this real quick. Like, just record it. It sounds cool. And so from then on, at the end of Planet Zero, every time we track it, right where that interlude starts on the record, like we'd finish and then like that thing would start playing. And it kind of became a part of the me just being used to hearing that. Just that one sound. There was nothing else to it. So that was the first thing that happened. The second thing that happened was when we wrote No Sleep Tonight, and we were at some point, it was me and Zach and Brent were in here messing around with something else, and I soloed the keyboard stuff that's in the chorus of No Sleep Tonight. Because the whole idea of No Sleep Tonight, I was like, I wonder if I can do like this thrash thing with like these 80s keyboards. Like, that would be kind of fun, you know? But I soloed the keyboards out for the chorus, and at some point, Zach goes, that sounds like an intro. And I was like, oh, that does kind of sound like an intro. And so uh, I kind of those two ideas, like these synthesizer things, were going on in my head. Um, so out of that came this idea of like, okay, once we have all the songs recorded and we know what order they're going to be on the record, I'd love to make some synthesizer interludes in between. There was never supposed to be like a concept record or anything. I just wanted to like maybe make some synthesizer music in between each song. And in fact, I'd already gone back and made I hadn't made the intro, the 2184 thing yet, which was the stuff from Asleep Tonight. Um, I'm trying to remember the order of this, but I do know that at some point I took that Planet Zero interlude and I added the other keyboards to it, so it would flow from Planet Zero into Dysfunctional You, because there's a key change in there that had to happen and some other things. And Brent was in here and he's like, that's really cool. And I'm like, yeah, I want to do a couple more. And then we realized we had 3 days before the record was going to be mastered. And it was like, so if I'm going to do this, I got to do this. I have 3 days and I want to make I just said a couple of interludes. And then from there on, I just started like trying to figure out. I went one interlude at a time, and I was like, well, I want one to be here, I want to be here, I want to be here and here, and however many there were, and it would have to kind of tell a story. I did, and also, yeah, the whole idea of like having this woman talking over the top, like this computer woman, like she's like a computer to me in my brain, you know. And I was like, well, okay, well, what would she say at this point? What would she say at this point? What would she say at this point? And so I would write the scripts just like I'm writing a book. Like it was the same mechanism as like writing a book. Not writing a song, but writing a book, like a dialogue.
Right.
You know, how would this computer torment someone to try to, you know, basically using her as like an analog for our government or something, you know, like what would they, like a very 1984 kind of thing.
Right.
And I just went through and for each one just kind of wrote this script, you know, what would she say? And so then I took what she was saying, and there's something in Apple computers called Terminal. And you can do this if you have an Apple. You can open up Terminal and you type in what you want it to say, and then there are different voices you can pick to like pronounce and do the you know, speak. Basically, it's like a speak and spell sort of thing. And I just typed in stuff into Terminal, and then brought it into these sessions and started moving it around and doing the vocal effects on that voice and like trying to make it sound a certain way. And I don't know, man. It was just like all happened really fast. It all happened within 72 hours. I did every single interlude. Created the music first, so it would flow between each one and have a vibe between each song. We already knew the order we wanted the songs to go.
Right.
And then created the dialogue and what would be said. And I've still got the notepad with all the dialogue stuff that I did for those, like in my phone. I just started typing in my phone. Normally I write things out pen and paper, but I knew I was going to have to drop these things into Terminal, so it was easier if I just already had it typed.
Right.
And then the 2184 thing was like, oh, that'd be a great intro for. Zach had that idea about it being an intro, so I slowed it down and kind of made it more of an epic intro thing for the record, and called it 2184 for two reasons. The book 1984,
Yeah.
you know, being kind of having a similar subject matter, subject matter to the record, and then the intro to Van Halen's 1984 record, which was called 1984, but it was a synthesizer intro. And so then I was like, 20, you know, but the whole thing with our record takes place in the future, right? This future dystopia. So that's why I called it 2184. But yeah, man, it was very much more akin to book writing than to music writing with all that stuff. And you know, it's just like, it is like songwriting though, in the fact that it just kind of starts pouring out. Like you just sort of, each one of those things, like it honestly didn't take that long to get what I wanted to say down. You know, it was like, this is what this needs to be. And, you know, I wanted this voice to be, again, it's sort of treating the listener like our government treats its people, which is like, you know, sometimes it's this hammer that gets brought down on you, and sometimes it talks very softly to you, and, you know, it depends on what it wants to get out of you, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, that was how that happened, and that's what that was. And it was a long couple of days of my life of, you know, not, you know, I said it didn't take very long, but it takes a long time. Like I said, you're conceptualizing music, and you're doing it with analog synthesizers, most of it, and analog drum machines and stuff. So it's like, takes a lot of time to get it just right. And so how many interludes are on there? What is it? There are 13 songs, but I don't
Five or
remember
six.
Yeah, I don't remember how many interludes there were, but it took a while. Like I said, the word stuff happened quick. Some of it happened, the creative stuff happened quickly, but the technical side of it, and then you got to mix it, and then you got to, you know, it's it was a lot. It was a lot to do, but it was good. It was
Let
fun.
me see here.
How many?
Planet Zero.
Yeah, I got it right in front of me too. I can probably look it up in front of me. I have my phone in front of me.
So 2184. No Sleep Tonight. Planet Zero. Welcome. Dysfunctional You. Dead Don't Die. Standardized Experiences. American Burning. Do Not Panic. Symptom of Being Human. Hope. A More Utopian Future. Clueless and Dramatic. Sure is Fun. Daylight. This is a Warning. The Saints of Violence. Army of the Undifferentiated. Delete What You Wanted.
Yeah, so seven
Seven.
interludes. Yeah. So, yeah, man, it was a busy few days, and then literally got that finished and got on a plane. I think I finished it at like 2 a.m. and then was leaving for the airport at 6 a.m.
Does it ever bother you that there's a good chance that some of these songs never be played live? Like when you write a song, do you is your goal to say? I mean, obviously, every artist wants to have play every one of the songs live because it becomes a hit and people love it, right? But
Yep.
do you feel like if you wrote a really great song that I know we always talk about Pyro. I love the song. I know a lot of people love the song, but it comes off live. You guys call it pancakes or whatever. But when you write a great song like that, do you feel a complete sense of happiness 100% once you get to play it live, or were some of these songs always kind of idle like 90 because it's a great song, recorded great, sounds great, but you're never going to play it live. It doesn't feel complete.
I don't know. I don't know if it depends on what the vision is for the song while you're making it. Like there's some songs that like I have a vision of playing live and I want to play live. And then there are other songs where you're like, we're never going to play this live, but it's a fun song,
Yeah.
Those songs and then there's songs that you never have a vision of playing live that you end up having to play live. So they're kind of three different sets of them. It's like, a song like Brilliant was born out of wanting to play it live. Like that whole song was
Awesome.
made for me, I don't know if it sounds like it, but it was, we were on tour with Iron Maiden and I was, listening to these crowds sing these guitar solos back to like all night. Like when there was a guitar solo, the crowd would sing the guitar solo with the guitar player, and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool, man. Like it'd be great to write something that's sort of anthemic like that you could play live. And I always wanted to play that song live. And then we played it live and it did not have the effect that I saw in my head, right? It was like, it was pancakes. Like everybody just kind of stands there and watches you play it, and it's not this. No one's having this visceral reaction in a good way. This reaction to what you're doing. So that kind of stunk. But that was that song I always wanted to play live. What was the song off of? What was the song we opened on that was on Planet Zero that wasn't a single? We opened. No. What?
Hold on. Yeah.
I'm so bad with this.
Not Dead Don't Die. No Sleep Tonight.
Saints of
Silence in the Window. Yeah.
Saints of Violence
in the arena. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I always picture playing that song live, and that breakdown in the middle and everything in the end, and that actually worked live. So that was fun. Like that was good. But then there are other songs that like What You Wanted, Sure Is Fun, Dark Side, like these songs that like were never really intended to be played live.
Yeah.
And they're just fun on a record,
Like I love the song Black Cadillac. And I know I think you guys released it in the UK, correct?
Yeah,
it was like a single there.
It was a single in the UK, yeah.
But like I hear that song, I'm like, how is the song not bigger?
We played it live in the UK once on one tour. It's not a fun song to play live.
Is it just because it's tough, or is it just like the way
it's just kind of like it's just sort of really slow.
They chug, like a slow chug, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel good to play live. That's the other thing, man. It's like you hope that the songs that people want to hear live are the ones that feel great. And
Yeah.
I know that people in the UK keep asking for that song, and we probably need to play it. We've had the intention of playing it every time we go over there. We're like, we need to play it this time, and then we never do because it's just
Dark Souls, another good one you guys obviously played that
yeah,
one summer.
Black Soul was good. But again, man, you talk about one that like didn't have the live reaction that I thought it would
Which
have. Like
right.
we played it, but I don't think it had like there's just certain things that work and certain things that don't, and there's no way there's no, again, man, there's no gauge for it. Like you never know what's going to happen and what's not going to happen or what's going to work and what's not going to work. I will say this, man, like that we always talk about the good problem to have of having all these singles and the fact that people want to hear them, and that is great. But I am getting bored to death with our set list, man. It's like we're just playing kind of the same stuff. Because people want to hear it, but man, I'm at a place right now where I would love to mix up the set list. And we got this tour coming up soon, and we're gonna get through this year of shows, and then we're gonna change things up, and we know that. But man, it's a blessing like I said, it's a blessing to have all these songs. But it's like if I have to play Sound of Madness one more time,
Yeah, I mean, think of the 5 songs you always have to play live. I mean, take
they're more than. The thing is, there are more than 5. It's like, no, we're not getting out of here alive if we don't play these 10 songs at least, or 12 songs, 13 songs, 14 songs.
Right, and now you're looking at 3 songs you could add for your pleasure.
Yeah, and then that becomes like, well, no one wants to hear this but us, and so that's, I think when we do like the deep dive tour, which we were going to do over COVID, before COVID hit, when we've talked about doing it again, I think, and I'm pretty sure we will do it for sure, but at some point. But man, it's like, I'm longing for that, to be able to do something like that, to be able to kind of get out of the, and by the way, I'm the guy that I don't like change very much. I'm the one in the band that doesn't like to change things up too much. I like to get into a set list and get into a groove, but like I'm looking forward to trying.
It would be interesting. Now, obviously, this would be a shit ton of work for you, which, but like, if you were to do a set list, but like, if make Sound of Madness slow, make Enemies slow, change up like the arrangement and stuff.
We've done that before, man. We did the acoustic tour. We did that acoustic tour back in the day. We did some cool arrangements of stuff. We did some. We did a piano and acoustic guitar version of Devour on that. We did. Man, there was just some really neat stuff we did. But yeah, I always like that. I like taking some heavier songs and making them, kind of doing some rearrangement stuff.
Yeah.
I've worked on some other songs like that for live where I've done some different arrangements, and we just never have gotten around to doing them. But we like to save that stuff for kind of more the deep dive acoustic tour, kind of fan show kind of things.
Yeah. That's awesome. What complete 180 here, but this week in like Massachusetts, it's gonna be like near 100, 102 tomorrow. Obviously, disgustingly filthy hot. But like I went down the rabbit hole again with like this weather patterns and stuff changing, and this guy was saying that Florida, the East Coast, would be hammered by hurricanes this year, be a terrible year based on whatever happening in the South, the water temperature, and whatever. I know we've talked about cloud seeding, and this guy just laid out this whole freaking thing. I don't know if it's all real, crazy, whatever it is. It's super interesting with like this whole weather thing. But like when it comes to like hurricane preparation, and I know we've done shows where you've been on the road somewhere and you have Kelly's alone and all this stuff. But like, how stressful is that for you when you hear someone say on the news, "Oh, this year could be a bad hurricane year"? Like, did your preparation change? Your mental preparation? Like,
nope. I just do one storm at a time. It's like, because dude, this is the thing, man. It's like people have such short memories about stuff, and it's like, every year is the worst year ever for this. Every year is the hottest year. Every year is the coldest year. Every year, it's not. It's just not. So when I hear people start talking about the worst hurricane year ever, I mean, dude, we had the worst hurricane year ever a few years ago, and most of the storms just end up turning out to sea, right? That's kind of the thing.
Correct.
At least where we are, they come in and then they curve out. Or I guess if you're on the camera, they come in from Africa, from down that way over Cuba, up Florida, and then but usually they just all kind of curve off. So I've watched that happen over and over again. And honestly, man, you really, with a hurricane, it's like you have some preparation, like, days out that you can do, like, get gas for the generator if you're going to stick around, figure out where you're going to take the horses, where you're going to stay because Kelly has to evacuate the horses. What am I going to do with the boat? Just kind of have a plan in place. But then honestly, it's like a 72-hour thing, where you kind of know this thing's going to hit, or a 48-hour thing. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to just do my thing and get out of here and, kind of lick your wounds if it hits. And I mean, that's kind of it, man. It's like, it's not you kind of become so used to it. It's like people in the Midwest with tornadoes. They're just like, yeah, I hear the sirens, you know, if it hits, it hits, kind of thing. I've heard people in the Midwest talk like that, and for me, like, a tornado would be a big event, right?
But I think for me, it'd just be, if I don't know if I'd be able to, does my love of where I live outweigh the chance that there's a good chance every year you have to rebuild something on your property? It's a weird.
You're not going to have to do that, though.
Right.
I mean, like, we're overdue for a major hurricane here, but what does that mean? I mean, that means that there hasn't been one in 20 years, right? Like a really major one. I mean, every year we'll have every year we'll have a tropical storm. I promise you, this year we will have some sort of
Monsoon
tropical
type.
storm with winds up to 75 miles an hour or something, or whatever it is, category 1 hurricane. We'll have that here at some point, but like a major hurricane, like a category 3 or higher.
That must mess up your ecosystem with the salt water, fresh water, with wildlife. It must be pretty gnarly in your neck of the woods after a hurricane cleanup.
Yeah, I mean, just like anything else, like people talk about the ecosystem after the fires in
Yeah.
California or whatever. Yeah, man, everything gets thrown off for a while, and you see a lot more wild animals out around. You see a lot of coyotes. You'll see a lot of bobcats and stuff that have been displaced. Home displacement, right?
Monkeys from the island. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. No shit, right? But it's honestly, man, it's like the thing about a hurricane is this: like, if you're gonna get there's such this massive storm, right? This massive storm, and honestly, for us, what normally is the biggest thing, even with tropical storms, is little tornadoes get spawned off of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Water
it'd be
geysers.
well, yeah, they're you can see them coming in off the ocean. They're water spouts, right? And then they turn into little tornadoes when they hit, and they can be damaging. But you have this giant storm that's huge, but then you've got this very, very small place around this storm that's going to do this catastrophic damage. So the chances of getting hit with the catastrophic side of a storm is really, really not that great. And so it's just your law of averages. You're kind of gambling. It's like, I'm not going to, and I'm not saying it couldn't happen. It very well could happen where you get hit 2 years in a row by something major like that. But chances are so super slim that, I'm going to have to rebuild kind of anything, really. I had to, put a new roof on my shed last year after a storm, and that was kind of it, but this year, my property could get leveled for sure. It's not like but the thing is, man, it does the benefits of living here far outweigh the risk of a hurricane. It's going to happen. It's just like, that's the thing. It's like the biggest pain in the ass of a hurricane is having to evacuate if you have to. It's like, that is the worst.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Can I ride this out?
That's just, well, I will ride it out. I've ridden them out before, but I will say this, man, people, want to talk a big game about riding out a hurricane, and it's like, even just a tropical storm, or let's just say it's a Category 1 hurricane, the 75-mile-an-hour winds, right?
Yeah, basic.
I don't think you grasp how like frightening that is. Like
I
75
mean,
mile, like a sustained wind of 50 to 75 miles and 50 75 miles an hour is not
you're
fun.
dropping some of your like video walls during a festival or concert at 12 miles an hour because
Yeah.
it's unsafe.
Yeah. So and and a hurricane has a noise. It makes a noise. It groans. Like it's just this constant, you don't hear the wind. It's like this constant sort of rumble. It's just like you walk out inside your house, you can hear it. You can walk outside and hear it. And it's like everything,
The
the
white
entire
noise.
the ether around you is just groaning and and rumbling constantly. Uh, and yeah, man. I mean, you get trees going down everywhere and stuff, so that's no fun. So like evacuation is probably just good, just in general as a rule. And the other thing, man, is just not having power for a couple of days sucks. If you're not prepared for that, like it's a pain in the butt. But um, we talk every year about how we're going to put a Generac generator on our house, and we never do. We don't have one, so
Yeah,
I've got a little small camper generator that I'll plug a small uh, refrigerator into and a TV and a Wi-Fi router or something, and that's about it. But
interesting.
yeah,
How
it's
bad do you think this with the election coming up in November? Like, do you think this is something that'll be worse than like the height of the pandemic with like the protests and?
oh, dude, they're gonna look. I
Because it seems like they're already gearing up with like
they're
that. There's bird flu. We got protests coming. We
yeah.
got court cases being announced. And verdicts coming out. We got all this stuff. It's just like, man,
There is what we said. There is no power for these people in comfort. There's only power for them in tribulation and in dis-ease and in problem. You know, uh, and if you don't think that the people, especially the people that are in power now, won't burn everything down to maintain that
oh,
power, and so I feel like we're going to see. There's going to be some catastrophic event that's going to happen between now and then. And I hate the fact that I feel this way, but I'm just waiting on it. I think it's palpable. I think people can feel it. Like everybody talks about the October surprise and all this stuff. It's going to be more than an October surprise. It's going to be, there's going to be some shit that goes down that is going to sway an election the direction they want it to go in for sure. Whoever, whatever that is.
yeah. I don't even
And
think
and and
certain.
and the thing is, man, is like honestly, at the end of the day, no matter who's in power, they're going to do that. Probably they're going to try to sway the election with it. But I feel something like something major is going to go on, man, because all this stuff with just leaving the border open, and then all of a sudden now they're shutting it down. It's like, who did you let in? You know, like
Votes,
something's going to happen, man,
right?
and um.
Well, I know we've talked about good and bad and like that feeling of like being on either side of it, but it's, to your point, because there is so much power attached to one party being in control of whatever, it just seems again that it's always like this doom and gloom of like, oh, here's a surprise, it's gonna be worse than before. It's like, how can we never when can we how can we get to the point where it's like, you know what, maybe it'll just be a fair election, maybe it'll just be good things will happen. It's like it can't be. It's almost like it's not allowed to.
Yeah. Well, everyone's so skeptical of everyone else too, man. I mean, and I fall into that too. Um, whether it's political tension, racial tension, especially those two things. Everyone is always skeptical of the other person, of the other side, of the other race, the other whatever. And it's like it prevents that from happening. I think there was a time when there was healthy skepticism
Yeah.
amongst people politically and amongst races and that sort of thing, where it's like, I like you, but I still know who you are, kind of thing. I don't despise you, but and now it feels like it's um, this unhealthy skepticism, like everyone is just out to destroy the other, and in politics, that's definitely true, though, and I think that's why we're not gonna see that again. I think that if you know, and look, man, this again, the illusion that we live in a free country, this illusion that we're free. Think about this for a second. You talk about like, I'm a free citizen and I can do what I want and blah blah blah. Think about the IRS for a second, and the fact that you think you own things, but you don't really own anything. Like, I own my car, but I only own it because the government allows me to own it.
Right.
Meaning, they have a property tax on my house, on my vehicles, on my anything that I have, right? And if I don't pay that property tax, they're just going to come take it from me. They're renting it to me. I own it, but I don't, right? And so that kind of power, man, like it's hard to undo that. It's hard to undo a machine that is built like that. And it's not a Democrat or Republican thing, man. It's a the people versus it type of thing, you know. And it doesn't matter what letter is in control. It's the same machine.
Yes.
And we have this illusion. We've been sold this illusion of choice. Like, well, if you just vote for a Republican, everything will be different, and it won't be. Nothing will be different. So that skepticism that's sort of built off of that too, causes us to stay at each other's throats and to be discontent, and so I don't know if I think those days of like an election just seeming like a good, healthy thing for the country, a good, healthy competition to see whose ideas win and what ideologies come out on top, and the pendulum swing that used to happen, I don't think is eventually these large pendulum swings are happening. But these small pendulum swings of like, well, the Democrats won this time, and we'll get them next time, and then the Republicans win, and the Democrats are like, we lost it, but hey, we'll beat those pesky Republicans next time around. Like those days are gone, man. It's like it is dog eat dog, and it's because everyone is making so much money in politics. It's like, you know, so everything that is everything is an existential threat to you. Like if meaning if you're a politician, if you don't win, then your livelihood goes away. You're not going to be making as much money. And not that that hasn't always been the case, but it is really bad now. And I also think that it's because it's really obvious now because of the internet. And so maybe, I mean, and maybe it's not that. Maybe it's just death throes, right? These people can only aren't they know they're not going to be able to get away with this stuff much longer unless they just clamp down on power. And that's the only way it's going to work. Whereas before people were more aware of what was going on, myself included, this stuff was still going on, but nobody watched it, and now
Right.
everybody can see it. You can look at who's trading what and who's, you can look at every single politician's trades and how they they
How they're attached to everything.
they out they what was there's some statistic out there how they win in trading like in this astronomically impossible ratio. They win more than they lose because they're making it's like betting on sports. It's like they are the equivalent of sports betting, except it's your government. Like it would be like, a baseball player knowing he can throw a game, by striking out or, having bad at bats to win money because he's bet against his team. They are investing in they're making investments in companies before they pass a law that they know they're going to pass within the next 2 weeks. And once that law passes, that stock's going to go up for whatever that company is that has to do with, or they've got family members that work at these companies and they know that this company and their family is going to get a contract. So they're going to send the contract to their cousin's company, but they're going to invest in their cousin's company before they send that contract over there. And that stuff's legal, and the only way to make it illegal is for them to vote it to be illegal.
Right.
So
It's just so
I don't know,
tiring.
man. Yeah, dude. So yeah, I think that look, we all feel like something major is. I think there's this just sort of there's something in the air,
I
something.
know we talked about like that, the grandparents or uncles or aunts. So you can look at the weather and be like, man, there's a storm coming. That's what it feels like every time I
Yeah,
step outside or like go to like a grocery store. You see people smiling and people happy in a good mood, but you also have the sense of like people looking around going, fuck, this could get shitty here real quickly.
yeah, and the fact that whatever it is will be sold to us like it's like an accident. Like, oh,
Yeah.
we didn't know. Oh
Uh,
my goodness. Oh no. No one saw this coming. And it's like, yeah, we all saw it coming. And the fact that there's still going to be people out there who are going to look at whatever happens and go, oh, this is just totally just totally an accident. Who could have seen this?
Speaking of accidents, this idea of like these farms and produce and poultry farms and beef farms being blown up or destroyed,
Yeah, dude.
like
How many?
so people look at that and be like, oh, it's just happened again. Like,
Yeah.
at what point is this more than a coincidence?
How many poultry farms have burned? How
What?
many chicken farms have burned in the past year?
Right, right.
I mean, it's
We're
uncanny.
talking
I
like
mean,
some of the biggest ones in the country.
yeah, on fire, burned up. Keeping food prices up, right? It's the train derailment stuff.
Yes, chemicals, fertilizer plants blowing up,
Yeah,
land being bought up by the Chinese and being sold to Bill Gates and his conglomerate. It just seems like all this stuff that's growing food in animals, it's like stuff that we've always had. Now they're controlling that to the point where, well, if you're going to want it, you have to pay us more to get this stuff. Like to grow, the price of bread is going up, eggs, all this stuff. Where it's like, dude, I can
yeah.
grow wheat in my backyard, but then they're going to tax that by. And so it's just like, it's the craziest. And no one just people just sit there, and then when you talk
Well,
about it,
what
you're a
what
conspiracy theorist.
what's funny to me is when people talk about inflation and the economy right now and how the current administration is trying to sell you that the economy is great and there is no inflation and that everything is fine. They're trying to gaslight you into thinking that everything's okay. And it's like and also celebrities too, man. Like I watch celebrities come out and like, talk about how this is the most glaring thing for me is people who celebrities who stump for politicians, one side or the other, and they're going to tell you
Uh,
how great things are under this administration or this person or whatever because they share an ideology. But the thing is like all of the trickle down stuff that happens, like the people that are in the middle class right now who, you know, their house payment is 85% of their income or something, well, a celebrity's not going to feel that, they don't
no
think about
idea.
these things, right? They live in a different world. Politicians and celebrities live in a different world than the rest of the world. And by the way, I'll put myself in that thing of not feeling it, right? I just try to stay cognizant of it. And I try to look at what people are going through. And, I try to be and I'm empathetic to that. And so, it's so uh, uh, tone deaf, you know, to for the current administration and for the celebrities that are stumping for them to go, look at how great everything is. I mean, what are you talking about? Everything is great. And it's like, a financial apocalypse could happen and these people in Hollywood could be fine and would be fine. I
Correct.
would not survive a financial apocalypse. They would for sure. Um, and they just they want you to think that they're just like you, and they're not. They're not like me, they're not like you. The politicians aren't like me and you either. Um, they're going to do whatever's in their best interest financially. That's the only thing that you have to see. Whatever is in their best interest financially is what's going to happen. Not in your best interest, but in their best interest. And so, I don't know, man. I think it's just sad. We're in a sad state.
Is it weird for you as an artist that part of a band that songs that people are easily relatable to all walks of life, right?
Yeah.
But as you get more number ones and more famous and more people want to sell your shows and all this stuff, how hard is it to kind of keep yourself alive to the fact that you're still the same songwriter that your dad wanted you to be when you told you to
Uh,
write a hit, like as opposed without getting to the point where you're so big where it's like you can't even write music now. It's relatable to the people that are supporting what you love to do.
well, I just think a lot of it's just mindset, man. We've talked about that. I mean, I don't think of myself as successful at all. Like, I think of myself as still trying to be successful or still trying to, you know, like again, man, I know that happiness doesn't come from stuff and things and money and success, and grief doesn't come from those places either. Well, I say grief can come from those places, but you're not impervious to grief, right? You're not impervious to depression. You're not impervious to being a human being, and so that's what I think about when I'm writing. I don't think about any of that other stuff, and so it never like, um, I never think about the fact that I'm always gonna have a well to pull from just because you know, I don't know, man. I guess I just don't see myself as anything special. It's like
Yeah.
we're just people, and um, it's fortunate slash unfortunate that you have to achieve something to realize those things that success doesn't equal happiness, money doesn't equal happiness, and the only way to realize those things is to achieve success or money or whatever. Um, but then, I also think about the fact that it's like, well, some of the happiest people are happy because they're pursuing those things. Maybe if they never achieve success or money, they think they're after that, so it keeps them up and keeps them moving forward. And I think that maybe that's been part of my depression problem, right? Is like I arrived at a place that I thought was happiness. Happiness is I assigned a location to happiness, which is ridiculous, you know. But I arrived at this place, and it's like I'm here, and I feel exactly the same. I don't feel any different. And then you have to start doing the hard work. Then the hard work is, oh, happiness is something else. It's or joy. We've talked about this. That happiness is not a state, but joy is a state. And so I have to work at being joyful now, and I have to for me that means doing a lot of stuff that I don't like to do is what actually makes me joyful. And it's very weird, man. It's strange how everything that you think gets turned on its head when you become successful, or somewhat successful, or whatever, or the dog catches the car, you bite the tire, and all of a sudden that tire's still spinning, and you're just getting wrapped up in it. Only thing the dog wants is just to catch the car, and then once it bites that car, there's this oh shit moment of like, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and you're getting dragged down the road, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, I look, man, as long as you're honest about what you're writing about, you'll never have a hard time. Sometimes it's difficult to put it into words. That's kind of where I'm at right now, right? I've got a lot of things that I want to write about, and I've got a lot of feelings. I'm having a hard time assigning syllables to it.
Yeah.
And assigning something that feels worthy of what I'm feeling. And I don't know if that'll happen. I don't know if that'll happen on this record. Probably won't. But
yeah. It's I know Clint Lowry follows us on this stuff and is always reacting to different stuff, and he's got an awesome new podcast I believe he's starting. But when
cool.
someone the other day, someone was like, can you name a band that just makes you feel like the most relatable band to you? And the parameters were, doesn't matter if they sold out arenas, stadiums, bars, and they have just been around for a long time. And I immediately thought of Seven Dust in terms of the most blue collar. You know what you get with that band. You're going to get a performance, whether it's from one person or 1 million, that's going to be memorable. And they're just like, their song lyrics. While sometimes I'm not really into like the bands that do a lot of screaming. They do some of that per se, but like it's oh, you look at the lyrics themselves, it's so relatable for the working man and woman that I think that's why a band like that, every band that I know that I've worked with, whether it's Three Doors Down or Nickelback, they owe everything to that band in terms of they trusted us to
Yeah.
take us out. And it's such a like what other examples of bands like that do you know that just like that type of like they get it. Like they're not political, but they get the real emotion of like what the average person goes through each day.
Well, I mean, look, I think Seven Dust is one of those bands that and you know, Clint is a writer, and LeJean and Morgan and all of those guys as writers, they've lived what I was just talking about, right?
Yeah.
You get to the golden ring, and then the golden ring turns to brass, and it's like, and then the brass tarnishes, and you're like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like this was supposed to be the answer. This was supposed to be the remedy to all of my problems, and that's going to humble you one way or the other, and it's either going to destroy you or it's going to make you stronger. And in some cases it destroys you and then makes you stronger, and then destroys you again and makes you stronger again. And that's sort of the cycle. If you just let it destroy you, you can become cynical, or you can become an asshole, and you can become unrelatable to people. I think to stay relatable and to stay successful, and you're talking about just the hard work aspect of it, that group of gentlemen has defined that, that hard work and staying. Here's the thing, man. You stay relatable to people because you stay relatable to yourself. I have to be relatable I have to be able to relate to myself. I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror and go, oh, even if I'm having a hard time figuring out who I am at some moment, I still know who I am at my core, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does, but those guys they know who they are, and that's why they can write the music they write, and that's why they've stayed relevant and they have the longevity that they have. Other bands like that, I like. I tend to like being around the bands that went through it, like kind of like what we're talking about. Bands that had like great success, and then every band member, you could watch them one at a time kind of hit a wall and have issues and problems, and whether it's drugs and alcohol, or it's depression, or it's women problems, or whatever it is, and they all kind of deconstruct their lives, and then they have to put them back together again. And when they put everything back together again, they're a kinder, gentler version of themselves that can, that's when they become more accessible to the fans, I think, like through their music. And I don't know why, for whatever reason, man, like as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about Korn, right?
Oh yeah, another band. Yeah.
Yeah, but watch them kind of, not me personally. I don't have like a lot of personal attachment to those guys, right? But you watch them go through what they've gone through, and everyone's metamorphosis, and now it's like when I do see them, they're like fucking really relatable, cool people, and they still make great music, and they also help a lot of people, man. That's the other thing. It's like outside of their music.
Yeah, addiction, faith, all that stuff.
Yeah, man. I think about Lacey and Josh, right? Lacey and Josh Sturm, and it's been great to see Flyleaf playing shows again and that sort of thing. But those two, husband and wife, there as artists and as people, man, they live the life that they put in their music. And again, it's that's why people are drawn to it. It's honest. It's man. Occasionally you'll get a top 40 pop artist who really does something genuine, man, and it's awesome. But more times than not, in that style of music, it's not genuine. It's you're singing about something superficial. And that's probably why top 40 music is made for younger audiences, because there hasn't been enough hard shit that's happened to the listener for them to
Well,
need
it's
for
the image.
for them to need a deep song, right?
It's like the image too. Like, not to be ignorant here, but like when I think of a pop artist, literally today, I'm not thinking of a pop artist that drives 8 hours between gigs, 7 days in a row for shows, loading into your own gear, playing a 2 hour set, signing autographs. That's why rock and metal and that type of like, you see them putting in the work as they grow or not, but they're physically entwined to it. Where not today's specific pop artists, but I know in the last couple of years with you guys and some of the stuff I'm doing, where you kind of go into these worlds where it's like, oh, this person's the pop world. Well, I know because they're not carrying their gear and they're the first of 12 bands. I
Yeah.
know they're a pop singer. Where
Right.
that fucking rock band, local guy, is helping you push your cases after the set because he believes in it. It's
Yeah.
just, I don't know. I don't know if it's a mindset, and obviously there's pop musicians and bands and stuff that put the work in, but it just seems like the rock community is it's more believable to me. It's
Yeah,
dirtier.
man. Right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it does seem like it is definitely a more blue collar place for sure.
Yes.
But look, I'm not pushing my own gear, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not.
No,
Like,
but you did though. But you did
I
though.
will. I mean, we like when we do acoustic stuff. Yeah, I load my own guitars in and tune my own guitars and do all that stuff. I mean, yes, of course. But I did for sure, and I'll still help other bands do it too. Like I go to some local shows here and there, and like, I'll help people load out, load in, whatever. Man, I'm not, because I did it for so long, and I would probably still be doing it if that's what it meant. That's the other thing, man. It's like, there's a soul to rock and roll and to some country too, man. Not all country, but to some country music where there's a soul there of like
George Strait crushing records still.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Of putting in the hard work,
Yeah.
And not that look, any type of touring is difficult. I mean, it can be difficult, I guess, but I like staying grounded, man. I just look, man, there are artists, there are rock artists and country artists and whoever that end up having a hard time writing songs after they get success because it's like, oh, now all the hard times are gone, but they're, I don't know, but they're not gone. They're actually worse.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't have anything else to add to that, but
Well, I mean, I think this is a good episode. I know two things. Their next bonus episode, I think, is coming next week.
Yeah.
So be looking out for that. And then I know you and I are, well, obviously I know we are, working with Marissa to create 2 new shirts.
That's great.
For the podcast. So we'll have the new drafts of those this week, and then we'll finalize them. But yeah, last week was our biggest episode to date on YouTube.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's great to see all your comments and messages and stuff.
Hey,
like that.
tell everybody where they can get your comic, John.
Let's see. It's if you message me, I could probably send you the link, obviously, where you get either the digital copy or physical copy. But if you go to machetecomics.ca, he's the comic book shop and illustrator creator is based in the Ottawa area. But yeah, machetecomics.ca, and yeah, it's the first run. It probably might sell out by the end of the month, which is amazing. And then obviously digital, it helps with shipping costs and bullshit going on today. Digital, you get the full comic in digital form. And I know I've had people in Italy, Germany that picked it up because shipping something, a postcard costs an arm and a leg now. So trying to make it work for everyone.
And then our friend Eric Bishop's new book came out today.
Breach of Trust came out last night at midnight. Got my copy, and I know he saw you at the U.S. Open.
He did.
You know what? It's interesting seeing like all your friends and people you're in the circles with, like releasing stuff they create. And I know obviously we talk about that, but it's just like it always feels good to text that person. And like, this past couple of weeks, it's been 3 or 4 people a week where I'm like, man, I'm so fucking pumped for you. Like badass. Like this is so cool.
Yeah, man.
And it's fun.
Yeah, man, and it's a real it's a labor of love, man, to see something through like that. So I think you can pick his book up on Amazon, I think.
Yeah,
So
Amazon. Yep.
yeah. So
But yeah, good episode, folks.
yay.